And thank you also, Brian, who's providing us with an excellent segue into our next topic. Glenn Greenwald finally realizing that the right doesn't really care about free speech or anti-war positions when it comes to Palestinians. Yeah, so Glenn Greenwald has actually been calling out some folks on the right lately, including people like Josh Hawley, who previously said they cared a lot about free speech and claimed to, be the only thing standing in the way of the authoritarian, censorious, totalitarian Democrats who are basically what George Orwell was warning us about in 1984. But now all of a sudden, as soon as it comes to Israel and Palestine, all of these free speech warriors and free speech bros, people like Josh Hawley, as I mentioned, but also Dave Rubin, who we're about to be talking about, immediately flipped on a dime and completely abandoned their principled opposition to censorship, which has been hilarious. And despite the fact that we have disagreed with Glenn Greenwald quite a bit recently with some of his takes, at least I have, I do appreciate the fact that he's being honest about this and calling out folks like Dave Rubin, as he does in this clip from Bad Faith. Did you get a chance to check this out, Zach?
Yeah, I did watch this. I was stoked to be able to react praisingly to one of Glenn's takes. Glenn's a friend of the show. We've got a lot of love for that dude. We disagree a lot, butt heads on politics. So every time we get to harmoniously agree, it's a nice little present for the show. We like to react to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's take a look at this. I thought this was pretty interesting. Glenn Greenwald explicitly calling out Dave Rubin, who I believe is also in the whole like locals/Rumble machine.
Yeah, remember we saw that really fucking cringy picture of Glenn with Dave Rubin and Michael Malice and a bunch of other unmentionables, and we were like, Glenn, what are you doing? No.
Yeah, I think it was like right after the first or second GOP debate.
Jordan Peterson, the lobster himself, was there. Oh my god. The postmodern neo-Marxism.
Glenn just did a panel with Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin. Not even
Glenn, how did you survive, bro?
I know, but I think it was
just spontaneously combust from all the fucking idiocy in the air.
I do think it was because they were all like employees of the whole Rumble Peter Thiel empire.
I'm not judging him for being on a panel with these guys. I'm just saying, like, God, that's fucking revolting.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm not like, yeah, it is what it is. I'm just saying, I think it was kind of arranged because they were all like sent on a little field trip to the GOP debate or something like that. Who knows? Either way, the point is Glenn was just on a panel, just talking nicely with Dave Rubin. So I was a little bit pleasantly surprised to see him just a few weeks or months or whatever later explicitly calling out the motherfucker on the Bad Faith podcast for just being the world's biggest hypocrite.
Remember when we asked him about? Remember when you asked him about how Dave Rubin was saying that Glenn basically just like stole his play? Glenn was like, "Are we even going to talk about this fucking idiot? Like as if he's a serious commentator or a person worth engaging with on any intellectual level?" And we were just like, "All right, fair enough, bro. He is the fucking dunce of the internet. Even Joe Rogan thinks he's too dumb to talk to him."
Yeah, that was hilarious. Check out. I think that was the last time we had Glenn on for that interview/debate. We got into libs of TikTok and stuff. And I think that was like the first question we asked him. So if you haven't seen that interview we did with Glenn, check that out. That was pretty funny because he also was kind of trashing Dave Rubin in that interview. Anyway, do you want to take a look at this, Zach?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, with Dave Rubin, and we did a couple of segments on him on our show, he didn't just become an ally in free speech. He built his whole career, Briahna, on feigning a support for free speech, the virtues of engaging people in debate rather than trying to vilify them or censor them. He has basically said the problem with the West is that we no longer abide by liberalism in the sort of classical sense of that term of allowing free and open debate, but instead impose orthodoxy. So for him to turn around and not just kind of acquiesce to censorship, but to openly cheer it. I mean, the day that France imposed a nationwide ban on all pro-Palestinian protests, even while pro-Israel protests are still completely legitimate. So you can have a protest to support French policy in the Middle East, but not one that opposes it. Dave Rubin said, oh, it looks like there may be hope for the West after all, meaning now suddenly the problem with the West isn't censorship, the salvation for the West is censorship. And we did ask several people on who have been on my show before, whose shows I've been on, including Dave Rubin and others, who I pointed out to them, to me, seem quite inconsistent. when it came to this issue to come on my show, or for me to come on their show. I don't really care where it's done, and try and understand how they can reconcile these two positions. And unfortunately, I haven't had any takers. There are a lot of people who are very busy, who have a lot of health problems with their family, even though.
Bro, shout out to Glenn, because Glenn is like one of the only dudes that even fucking remotely flirts with that crowd that is legitimate in their free speech principle. Like Glenn, like 100%, like he believes in free speech. It's one of the things I respect most about the guy. Like he's been now lecturing all of those fucking conservatives about like, hey, bro, like the same shit you throw a tantrum about is being imposed right here. So like you're gonna fucking be an adult, be a grown up, be consistent with your morality. No, all right, well, and now I'm gonna call you out. Fucking like, you're welcome to come on my show. And he's like perfectly polite about it. He's like, I haven't had any takers, people are busy, but we all know what it is that they're fucking cowards, and not a lot of people have the conviction to go out there and articulate what they believe when they know that they're being massively hypocritical.
They don't have any problem going on Twitter and cheering for censorship. They apparently are too busy to come on my show and explain why they're doing it. So I'm going to keep pressing the point as much as I can.
Can you walk us through the details of Ron DeSantis' latest? Because I saw you did a segment on this, and that to me is one of the more galling instances that I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of this, and this doesn't mitigate it at all, is that there are a lot of people, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, have done similar things on free speech, who are desperate to find a way to save their failing political campaigns. And I think there's this competition to prove who is more pro-Israel. And so by arguing, oh, we should even censor Israel critics is one way to do it. But in Ron DeSantis' case, unlike Nikki Haley and Tim Scott, he's not just calling for things to happen. He's exercising his power, abusing his power as governor to make them happen. What he did was he ordered the entire public university system in Florida. So that's the University of Florida, Florida State University, the University of South Florida, Florida International University, a lot of serious, major, large college campuses to ban, to de-credential one pro-Palestinian group in particular, which he claims isn't just engaging in free speech against Israel and in defense of Palestine and Palestinians, but is even going further by somehow their speech is becoming material support for terrorism, which is a felony. It's a crime for which people go to prison in the war on terror for 20, 25 years. And I mean like the worst prisons, like the special prisons they created for Muslims accused of terrorism crimes.
Guantanamo Bay. And that's so true, right? Like that's essentially what they're paving the way for. Intense criminalization of any speech that's supportive of Palestine at all. Which is a horrifying place to be, a really, really bad place to be in this country. And the people who are cheerleading it, Glenn is correct to point out, come from both sides of the like weird apparatus. Like anybody who, honestly, like, I don't know. I don't even know exactly like the best way to say it, but anybody who's entrenched in like mainstream media narratives on either side, like, you have the worst of the like, New York Times, MSNBC liberals. And then you also have a bunch of people on Fox News talking about our loyalty to, Israel and all that kind of shit, Sean Hannity and whatnot,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's the total consensus. And it is really nice to see someone as intelligent and articulate as Glenn Greenwald making points that I totally agree with and that really need to be made specifically on this issue when there's been such a blackout of the, accurate reality, the context, all the important details which actually matter as far as understanding this conflict goes. And instead, just this relentless drumbeat from the media to censor everyone who supports Palestine, to censor everyone who criticizes Israel, and not just to censor them, but to label them as anti-Semitic, when obviously we all know that's completely not true.